Throughout time, roller coasters have come and gone. Only some become legends for their intensity and thrills. Each and every year, coaster fans like you venture to the parks, searching for that one special ride that stands out above the rest. You submitted your rankings, and now it's time to reveal the group of elite roller coasters that you have voted as the best of the best. COASTER-net Uncut is proud to present the return of the Thrilling 32.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome finally to the Thrilling 32 Championship. It's finally time to find out who has won the wood and steel coaster crowns, the belt, if you will, the championship belt here for the Thrilling 32. I have the belt.
You have the belt. I'm like, where'd it go?
It's upstairs in our closet.
You have the belt.
Yes, I have the belt. It's upstairs. You should have got it out. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, the 2023 Ride Word Choice Awards, which here we are in July of 2024, finally getting through. But we're gonna crown our wood and steel champions tonight. We're gonna crown the Thrilling 32 Bracket Challenge champion as well. Then we're gonna go through the top 50 wood and steel coaster lists, see where all these rides ended up, and see where the rides that didn't make it to the Thrilling 32, but we're in the top 50, see what rides are on that list this year. So any thoughts before we just jump right into it here?
There's a lot of differences. I'm going to be very excited to see what those top 50 lists look like ultimately. But we had some real shockers come out in the final four there, moving into our last championship round.
We did.
And there's a lot of differences. So I don't think there's any coaster right now that has a near certainty of winning these titles. I think every coaster, even Voyage to some extent, I think Voyage is the most safe, but I think to some extent there's that RMC factor with Wildfire. There's all this other stuff going on that no coaster really has a cakewalk here to the championship belt. I think there's some questions here.
Yeah, I mean, both of our contenders tonight, Wildfire and Zadra, have both been down the rankings a little bit. They've both obviously made significant jumps. They've knocked off former champions. They've knocked off rides that they've historically always been behind. So all bets are off tonight, which is we're a little bit in uncharted territory. You know, I don't think we've ever entered a Thrilling 32 championship except for the first couple of years that we did this, where we really felt like both championship titles could be in some doubt.
There's a definite threat here. So
there is. All right, so let's talk about the wood coasters first. We've got the defending champion, the Voyage from Holiday World, going up against Wildfire from Kolmarden in Sweden. We've got, the ride that's just been the king forever, it seems, since 2017. It also won in 2014. It's been here forever at the top of the mountain. And we've got Wildfire, which in its first year in the Thrilling 32 did very well. I think it ended up fifth, or it was in the top five that first year, and it slowly kind of dropped down year by year. And now, I think you said it was 13 last year when you looked at it in the last episode, and now here we are. It certainly feels like it's going to be higher than 13 because it's knocked off rides like Lightning Rod, Outlaw Run beat Wildfire or El Toro. So we've got Wildfire sitting here having knocked off all these good rides, and by process of elimination, it's ranked higher than all these other rides. Wildfire is certainly going to be at the very tippy top of the list, it seems. The question is has it topped Voyage with doing all of that stuff?
Well, and people rave about the RMCs in general, as we all know. And Wildfire has how old is Wildfire now? Wildfire's
I think Wildfire is it's older than you think. I want to say it's like 2016, 2017.
We're talking about a ride that's been around for 7-8 years already. So this is
2016. So yeah. I mean, Wildfire opened not long after Lightning Rod did, like right around the same time.
So, and it's been one of those rides that people have slowly been getting to, slowly been talking about a lot. I've watched POVs of it. I like it. It's there's I think there's some serious issues with it. It's one of those rides that seems like it slows down at the end as you.
It is not a flawless ride.
Yeah. But yet for all of the people always talk about the out of control nature of Wildfire and how it's just crazy and whatever. But the same is exactly true for Voyage. Like you talk about put aside the RMC stuff. When you ride Voyage, you are feeling like you are just like just like completely out of control, being shot out of a cannon after those few first hills. Once you get to that spaghetti bowl, you're off to the races. And I will
Yeah,
say, Holiday World has taken really good care of that ride. They really have. And
they really have.
and they retract stuff. What's the most recent part? Didn't they just do the spaghetti bowl like last year?
They did parts of the spaghetti bowl again. They did the bottom of the first drop, which sorely needed it.
Hmm.
They did the whole second hill, which also sorely needed it. And I think they did parts of the return run. I mean, I would say that Voyage this year in particular, this past year, 2024, Voyage is probably as smooth as it opened, and by extension, I think every bit as fast as it's ever been. I
Oh,
mean,
it was just
it was hauling
barreling.
ass the last couple of years when they had done
Yeah.
retracking, but I think even more so this year. I mean, Voyage to me this year, and it's we talk about it all the time. Is it like I remember? Is it like I remember? Voyage to me this year distinctly struck me as more violent than it
Oh, it
was
was
in
violent.
recent years, in a good way, not a rough violent, in a
No.
fast and out of control violent. It was a violent, violent ride in every good sense of the word.
Yeah, it was it was out of control. And I hadn't ridden it for a while. Like when's the last time I went to Hollywood Nights? Like it's
I
been a few
mean,
years.
you haven't been since pre. Have you been since COVID?
Not since COVID, because they made people write
So I
essays and
mean,
stuff.
that's 5 years then.
And I refused to write an essay. So, um, but it just knocks you out. It knocks you out completely. Like it's crazy. So, for as much as the out of control nature of RMCs, I think Voyage was the original one that did that. So I'm gonna go with Voyage here still over Wildfire. I do think Wildfire jumped, but I just don't see it overtaking Voyage.
Yeah, to me, Wildfire is better than Outlaw Run. It is better than Lightning Rod. I think that is absolutely correct. I think it is the best of the RMC topper coasters. It on my personal list it is number five. I still always have Voyage at the top. I've always had Phoenix at number two, and for as long as I can remember, I've always had Gold Striker at three. That's been my podium for years
Yeah.
now, right? For years, Boulder Dash was number four. I moved Legend up to that four spot a couple of years ago, and I had Boulder Dash at five. And I rode Wildfire, and I said, you know what? Wildfire to me is a slightly better ride than what Boulder Dash is today. What Boulder Dash was 8 years ago might have still been a number four ride on my list, but I haven't had that ride on it in many years now. So I felt comfortable with Wildfire at five. So that's where I ended up putting it. I don't think we ever really talked through a lot of that. But Wildfire to me is certainly a top 10 wood coaster, probably a top five wood coaster for most people. I don't think it's better than Voyage. But I also acknowledge what it's done in this poll here and where that means it might be. So you're gonna go with Voyage. I think if I was a voter, I'd be going with Voyage as well. And everybody who filled out the poll is going with Voyage as well here. So this would be, I think, to me, this would be more shocking than Expedition G-Force beating Fury. This would be more shocking than Velocicoaster beating Steel Vengeance. To me, this would be the most shocking champion in Thrilling 32 history. I
And
think.
I'll also say I think it would be the wrong answer as well.
Uh, I would agree with you. I would
Yeah.
agree.
As
All
much
right.
as I look at both, I think Voyage is still the superior ride.
Yes, I would agree with you. All right. Wood champion from the 2023 Ride Warrior Choice Awards and Thrilling 32 is the Voyage
Ooh.
from Holiday World. The champion reigns supreme yet again, seventh consecutive year, eighth year overall for the Voyage. Um, it just seems like there's nothing that can beat this ride.
No,
And rightfully so.
and I don't think we're ever gonna see another ride um built like the Voyage, and no one's building these massive wood coasters anymore. Like even China has really stopped building this big wood coaster boom,
Yeah,
and
there's no path. There's no path for somebody to build something better. Even RMC is steering away from the topper track
yeah,
coaster. So
like
there's no path for anybody to build something better than Voyage.
the only place that I think could build something is Cedar Point. And one, I don't know where they put it. And two, I don't know if they have any desire to do it, to build the
Mm.
best wood coaster in the world. And three, I don't even know how you do it. I don't know how you
Well,
build something
that's
that's better than Voyage.
how do you build something better than the perfect ride?
Yeah. And I don't know if because it's the terrain, it's the speed, it's the intensity, it's how it doesn't let up. It's like if you could take Voyage's second half and get rid of the hills on the first half, but the hills kind of like set you up for what's to come. I don't know. I don't know how you beat Voyage at this point. And
Yeah, I mean,
granted, I didn't know how you beat other rides before Steel Vengeance came around, but I felt like we had hints of it when RMC started doing stuff,
yeah.
and then Vengeance just blew up the whole game, at some
When
point.
when we were in the era of the Millennium
Yeah.
Forces and the Supermans and the Expedition G forces and Fury, there for a couple of years. When RMC came on the scene, it was like the recipe was out there. Like
Yeah.
the recipe was out there, the little nuggets and the pieces of the puzzle were out there. And it took a place like Cedar Point to say, we're going to do all of the things that we ought to do to build the best ride.
Hmm.
And it feels like they did in Steel Vengeance. At least I think you and I pretty much agree, sentimental favorites notwithstanding, that Steel Vengeance is probably the best steel roller coaster, anywhere. And we both feel that way about the Voyage. But like you said, the difference with Voyage is there's nobody trying to build wood coasters on that scale. It's
No
almost
one's doing it.
as yeah, it's almost as if Holiday World now feels a responsibility to keep Voyage in tip-top shape as they have for years and years, because they know that it's the best there is and they have to keep it that way.
Well, and that's the thing with Voyage too is it's not only people not building wood coasters, but everyone seems to be putting steel track on existing wood coasters where God only knows how long El Toro is going to be around for as a
Oh yeah,
traditional wood
yeah,
coaster. We've already seen Lightning Rod be half steel track be put on half of it.
yeah,
So not only are we not seeing new steel coasters being built, even high level wood coasters, I feel, aren't going to be around much longer. Um, just because of their age and the retracking and the costs, and it's cheaper just to put steel on them at some point. And I don't know, but I would say Voyage I feel is a pretty safe spot.
yeah. I would agree. Voyage certainly seems like it's in a safe spot. Wildfire gave it a hell of a run, and we'll
And I
see
will
in a
say,
few
I feel like
minutes.
this was the last test because everyone always criticized, oh, well, Wildfire's not high in your poll and da 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 da. And,
Yep,
why isn't Wildfire higher? And now Wildfire has all those voters and still lost.
yep.
So I feel that at this point, Wildfire might have been the last contender out there because unless RMC goes back to building wood coasters again, Wildfire was that last contender that everyone's like, oh, well,
Yep.
Voyage, but Wildfire. But now we have an actual voting pool for Wildfire. And it'll be interesting to see what the percentages were on those.
Yep, and we will see that in just a few short minutes here. We have one more order of business before we see where that is, and that's to figure out who our steel champion is. And, we talked about Voyage and the possibility Wildfire, had gone through a lot of rides that historically were in the top 5, top 3. Um, the same can be said for Zadra here, which is going up against Steel Vengeance in the Steel Championship. The difference, as you pointed out in the last show, is there is so much less margin for error in the steel pole. The
Yeah.
steel coasters, just by virtue of how many steel coasters are out there and how many steel coasters people have ridden, the margin of victory has always been very small, relatively speaking, on the steel coaster poles. You can look at margin of victory for Steel Vengeance over the last couple of years that it's won, and in context of the steel pole, it's been a very large margin of victory, but it's been very small compared to the margin that Voyage has always had. We've always said Voyage could always withstand a group of people going to ride it and not liking it for whatever reason. It could still be number one. There are people in this poll who rank Voyage in the 20s out of like 150 Woodcote, 20s or 30s or whatever. And it still wins by a landslide every year. And it's the same again this year for Voyage. Steel Vengeance hasn't. It's always been sort of a, that first year that Untamed was in 2019, it was really, really close. But since then, it's had I'll call it a comfortable margin, but not a huge insurmountable margin.
Yeah.
And that's where I think this whole Zadra beating Velocicoaster, former champion, then a number 2, then Untamed, which was number 2 last year. All of a sudden Zadra has done all of the things that you would need to do to unseat a ride like Steel Vengeance, kind of like how Velocicoaster did it a couple of years ago. So, and we kind of thought that Steel Vengeance was an untouchable. Then Velocicoaster got it that one year. Now Zadra's beaten Velocicoaster. It's beaten Untamed. So, are we seeing Zadra do the Velocicoaster thing? The only difference being that Zadra's been around a while and it's just getting an influx of new voters. So, where do you kind of stand on that topic?
Well, I kind of said it before that I feel like with Wildfire and Zadra, it's almost the opposite of a new coaster where a new coaster pops up real high and then drops down. This was already there, and now it's popping up when all these new voters show up and start voting for it. In the interest of fairness, I had just watched a POV of Zadra, and let me say, I don't know if I get it. I don't know if I get
Really?
Zadra as much as I do other coasters. Like it seems like a very straight line coaster. It's a kind of like an out and back,
Yeah, it
to
is.
some extent. And it seems like a lot of maneuvers to me. And that, like, yeah, if you get some nice airtime on them, that's good. But it's also dependent on how fast you're going and what's happening. And I'm not a huge fan of some of the stuff it does. Like I like the stall at the beginning, like it's cool on Goliath, but I don't know if I would want that on like a Vengeance type ride. Like I said
Right.
before, Vengeance, every single element is perfect. And even with the big brake run, I know people are like, oh, but it has the big brake run on it. Oh, I'm such a big crybaby. Oh, I can't stand brake runs. But it sets you up for the second half, which goes kind of like Voyage. It has the brake run in the middle of it, and you somehow come off faster off the brake run.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like, are we sure that there's not boosters on that brake
like
run?
seriously, like did they put a launch on the brake run? And to some extent I get the same feeling on Vengeance is you take this brake run and then you just jump right back into it. You think the ride is over, you think it's done, and now the second half is just as intense as the first half.
Oh yeah,
Zadra just balls to the wall from start to finish.
sure.
There's no slowing, although there are some overbanks, and you know my feeling on overbanks, and they suck.
Yeah,
um and I hate overbanks with a passion. I've never been on a good overbank, I don't.
you do. You've never met an overbank that you liked.
No, and that's why I like Vengeance with those outer banks. Really changed the game on that, because whereas Texas Giant had those huge overbanks that just killed the speed. The outer banks don't seem to do that. And I don't know if it's the new wheel assemblies or if it's they figured something out with the I don't know what the hell, but those things are awesome. So I have to go with Vengeance. I've watched the POVs of Zadra.
Yeah.
I get it. I get why people like it. Is that the best ride in the world? And I would say if that's the best ride in the world, I feel like I've been on that already, and I haven't even been to Poland. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when they built King Ka, right? It's kind of
mhm,
like when they built King Ka after Dragster. It's like, well, after they built King Ka, it's like, okay, if they built a ride that was 480 feet and went 135 miles per hour, you'd be like, well, I kind of done that
yeah,
already.
I've done that already.
You know what I mean? Zadra does have an incredible pacing to it that most of the other RMCs, not even Iron Gwazi, has. Really, only Steel Vengeance has the raw pacing
Yeah.
that Zadra has.
And
Zadra
it's a
is
big
just
ride. It's a long ride. It's got a lot to it. You can't criticize
yeah,
anything. Like I know like Untamed is it's too short, or Outlaw Run, oh, it's too short, or even Iron Gwazi to some extent is too short. Even though it
right,
has all that height, you just go through that course real quick. Zadra has a
right,
lot going on. It does. So I can see why people like it, but I
yeah.
just feel I also feel the lack of inversions on it. Um, and that's the fun part, the way Vengeance throws you around. This is
Even in
just
the inversions, yeah,
it's all in the inversions, and this is just airtime, and it's hard to get airtime off the POV because wherever they put the camera lower, it seems like it's going faster. If they put the camera higher,
yeah.
so you've been on it. I don't know. I'm not I love airtime, so I'm not gonna say I'm not an airtime guy, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Zadra is the inversions it has are done extremely well.
Hmm.
I could argue it might be one of, if not the best stalls. There's a lot of really good stalls out there, but it's Zadras is so big
Hmm.
that it feels like it takes forever to get through, even though you go through it really fast and shaped really well. The sort of outwards bank turn, like where you're coming up and then you get thrown to the one side and you come back the other way, that one's really aggressive and really, really good. Wildfire actually has a very similar one. It's much higher in the air on Wildfire. You get a really nice view on Wildfire with Zadra. You're just looking off into a pasture. But Zadra has some really, really incredibly strong positive G forces. And Steel Vengeance has that as well. Iron Gwazi has that as well. And even Wildcat's Revenge has some really good positive G forces that some of the earlier RMCs just don't have. When you're at the bottom of the drops or you're in the turns, those newer RMCs and the bigger ones in particular, Vengeance, Zadra, Gwazi, um, and Wildcat, they have really intense positive G forces that really sort of add to the pacing and the variety. Even though you have a lot of ejector moments and out of your seat moments, it sort of does add a little bit of it adds a little bit of pizzazz to the
Hmm.
variety of forces that you feel. Which is interesting. That's one of the reasons I really like Wildcat's Revenge, even though it is a little bit smaller than those others, and why I put it in that upper tier with those other rides. Now, Steel Vengeance has that as well too, right? So I mean, it's not like that's a factor that sets Zadra apart. It's just something that it also has. I think if you were to compare individual elements on rides like Iron Gwazi, Zadra, and Wildcat's Revenge to the like elements on Steel Vengeance, I think you can pick and choose elements that are better than the ones that are on Steel Vengeance, but they don't all go together in the same ride like they do in Steel Vengeance, and they don't all mesh and live together on the same ride like they do on Steel Vengeance. And that for me is where Steel Vengeance still has to be the winner here. Zadra, does it have elements that are better than the similar elements in Steel Vengeance? Sure, I'll give you that. Steel Vengeance, doesn't have the one big straight airtime hill with like 4 or 5 seconds of sustained
Yeah.
ejector air over just a big straight hill. Zadra has that. Vengeance doesn't have the straight 0G stall where you're just upside down forever. It's got a bunch of rolls, but it doesn't really have a stall. Zadra does, and perhaps one of the best ones. But Vengeance has a lot of things that Zadra does not have. Zadra has a little bit of the ending with the bunny hops and the crossovers, not to the extent that Vengeance does. So there are certainly things that you can argue Zadra does better than Vengeance. Certainly individual things, but as an entire package, I still don't think there's anything out there that touches Vengeance when we're talking about these RMCs.
Well, and we spent a lot of time talking about Voyage and the out of control nature of it, and how like when you're on it, you don't, even if you've been on it, like things still take you by surprise on Voyage. I think the same thing happens on Vengeance, where it, even if you've, a lot of people are like, oh, I wrote it too much or whatever. That's great, but there's a lot of things that you feel like you're out of control when you're on it. Like it's just, it's taking you for a ride, it's taking you for a ride. Just like Voyage does, where it's aggressive, it's violent to some extent too. A lot of people don't like it because it is so violent, it throws you around. Just watch our RPOV, you clearly see.
Oh yeah.
And it just does, it flips you in ways that you're like, oh, I didn't know I would flip that way, and I didn't
know a ride could do that.
Yeah, and it's just like, it just does things, and those Outer Banks are just outstanding. Like those Outer Banks, like they should even be legal at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Like when it's trying to actively throw you out of the train, like the first, you're like, what the hell is going on here? Like it's not done. And that also adds to the uniqueness that a lot of people, you come to Vengeance later and you ride Vengeance later, and sometimes things are replicated other places. But when you do it first and you do it the best, like I always give lending more weight to that.
All right, so let's finally announce who is our Steel champion this year. After all of the debate, after all of the discussion, finally, somebody has challenged Steel Vengeance, but they haven't taken them down. Steel Vengeance is your champion.
Ooh.
Once again, Steel Vengeance from Cedar Point retains the championship belt. So after all of that,
after all that discussion, after all that chaos,
nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. As it shouldn't, though. Like,
I agree.
Like if Zadra was that good, I think a lot more people would be talking about it.
Yeah.
And I feel that the people who are talking about it are ones that are just blowhards. So
yeah, I mean, Zadra is great. But it's not Steel Vengeance. Just like Wildfire is great, it's not Voyage. So congratulations once again to Holiday World and Cedar Point on their champions. Same champions again this year. So why don't we go into what everybody's really watching this episode for, and it's the top 50 list.
Right.
So we've got them in groups of 10 here. So, 50 through 41, 40 through 31, and so on. So I'll read off each group of 10, and then I'll pause and give you an opportunity to weigh in on anything that strikes you as interesting here. All right, so let's start with the top 50 wood. At number 50 is Kentucky Rumbler. Number 49, Lightning Racer. 48, Comet from The Great Escape. 47, Wooden Coaster Fireball. 46, Swamp Fox. 45, Apocalypse the Ride. 44, Big Dipper from Camden Park. 43, American Thunder. 42, Mind Blower. And 41, White Lightning.
Mind Blower. How is anyone ranking that ride at all?
I love Mind Blower.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I know I'm in the minority there, but
it's gotten so bad. Like I stay 5 minutes away from it, and I won't even go ride it. I won't even take the time.
Yeah.
There's some other ones. Lightning Racer, I think, is a little low.
Lightning Racer's, fine.
I've never been a fan of American Thunder. I've never understood that one.
Yeah, that one probably doesn't need to be there. I'd rather see some of the rides in there.
Yeah, I think, well, maybe we'll see a shake-up next year. Who knows? Yeah, but there's not a whole lot that I'm like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, right. All right, let's move on to the next 10 here. Number 40 is Thunder Coaster from Tusenfryd in Norway. That was one on our trip. That was a very good coaster. A little rough around the edges, but they recently put timber liners on it, but they had retracked parts of it, and there was a lot of good airtime on it, but it did have some rough spots. But that was a fine ride, certainly deserving of being on this list. 39 is Excalibur, Funtown Splashtown, USA and Maine. Number 38, Roarosaurus. Number 37, Zippin' Pippin. Number 36, The Beast. Number 35, Cornball Express. Number 34, Tremors. Number 33, Twister from Knoebels, the first ride out, and that is grossly underranked for the Twister, if you ask me. 32, the Coney Island Cyclone, and number 31, Tonnerre Two Zoos from the streets in France.
Yeah, I agree. Twister's criminally underranked there. That needs to be higher. I still think Cyclone needs to be higher at Coney Island as well. I'm happy to see the Beast is not in the 32.
Yes. All right, let's move on to 30 through 21. And number 30 is Q Cullen. Number 29, Hades 360. Number 28, Joris and a Drock. 27, Raven. 26, Texas Stingray. 25, Thunderhead. 24, Colossus. 23, Prowler. 22, Goliath. And 21, Boardwalk Bullet.
Oh, there's some stuff now we're beginning to. Prowler at 23 still blows my mind that one's so low. Stingray seems right about there. Goliath, okay. Colossus was a total surprise.
I would have some of these rides above Goliath, I think.
Yeah. Goliath's so short too. That's the issue with Goliath. But Colossus at 24, I thought that's a little surprising.
Yeah, I think that one ought to be a little bit higher. Probably.
Didn't they just completely redo that ride too?
Yeah, right before we rode in 2019.
Okay.
So there's now.
Okay.
All right, let's go to 20 through 11. And number 20 is where we find the Legend from Holiday World. 19, Ravine Flyer 2. 18, Rampage. A little bit of
there's the debate.
17, Shivering Timbers. They were right next to each other.
Again.
Yes, indeed. Number 16, Troy. Number 15 is where we find Roche Bannon.
Oh, that's interesting how deep that went.
Yeah, so benefiting from the matchups there, because it did face Shivering Timbers there, and it had Ravine Flyer in the first round and then Shivering Timbers in the second round there. So a benefactor in the matchups. Number 14, Wodan Timber Coaster. Number 13, Mystic Timbers. A little bit of a drop for that ride, I think. 12, Ghost Rider. Number 11, Renegade.
I was just hearing people talk about Mystic Timbers the other day, and a lot of people saying that how they feel that it's aging even better. And I think Mystic Timbers is a criminally underranked coaster. I think that should definitely be in the top 10. Ghost Rider should be in the top 10. Ghost Rider dropped a little bit this year. I think it was 8 or 9 last year.
We went to Kings Island on our way out to Holiday World this year and rode a lot of Mystic Timbers, and I that was another ride where it's like I think I had it at 6 going into that trip, and I was like, I don't know if the ride's going to be that good, and it was. Like, Mystic Timbers is the top 10 wooden coaster. Absolutely.
Yeah, Mystic Timbers is legit. I don't understand why that's.
And it's got a shed.
It's got a shed with an awesome beast scene. Like, come on.
Seriously.
Oh well, not everyone's gotten the beast scene apparently.
Well, apparently not.
Awesome.
All right. Are you ready for the top 10?
Yeah.
All right, number 10 is the coaster from P&E, which met an untimely death in the first round this year. Number 9, Phoenix, a little bit of a drop for Phoenix. Number 8, Boulder Dash. Number 7 is where Balder comes in. So Balder doing extremely well this year. Quite a bit of a jump up for Balder. Number 6, Gold Striker. Number 5, El Toro. Number 4, Lightning Rod. So a drop, but not quite the drop we might have thought based on what happened here. But you see right above it as to why that was. Number 3, Outlaw Run. Number 2, Wildfire. Number 1, The Voyage. Yes, so a very legitimate number 2, indeed.
Yeah, so like looking at this, I feel Boulder Dash is going to slowly move its way out of the top 10. And I don't think anyone would disagree. I feel that the biggest problems are 11 to 20, where some of those rides should be a lot higher. And I know you can't have 20 rides in your top 10, unlike you, but
Well,
there's I feel like 8, 9, and 10, Boulder Dash, Phoenix, and Coaster, I feel might be a little overranked in comparison to 11 through 20.
okay.
So
Yeah, and that 11 through 20 group is very tightly packed in terms of the percentages I come up now.
and there's some rides in that group. There's some rides in that group.
Yeah.
Like you look at Renegade, Ghost Rider, Mystic Timbers, Rampage, Shivering Timbers. Like these are legit wood coasters. It's not even an American bias. They're really good coasters.
Yeah, very, very legitimate rides there. Really quick here because everybody's going to want to know the percentages. Lightning Rod and Outlaw Run were very, very close there at 3 and 4. Outlaw Run was 95.55. Lightning Rod was 95.42. So very close. And El Toro, number 5, was 93.23. So over 2 percentage points out of that. So a very distinct tier break there between the number 4 and 5 spots. Wildfire at number 2 was at 96.31. So not an insignificant margin above Outlaw Run there. So 96.31, and then Voyage at 98.21. So almost 2 full points clear of the field. So Voyage, once again, was not sniffed.
No, and that's not even a close. So all the Wildfire fans out there are like, oh, no, you're not even close on that one. Like
it was not sniffed at all.
Not at all. That's not even like.
All right, let's go to the steel coasters, and then we have to give away a prize.
I don't even know what the prize is anymore.
Well, we'll see. I guess a magnet maybe. So top 50 steel at number 50, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. And that's one that I am happy to see. I rode that just a couple months ago. I would not be surprised if that is one we voted before I wrote this. So that is one I would not be surprised if it makes a jump up. I don't even know if I'd be shocked to see that in the tournament next year.
I could see it being a low level. I have it higher. I don't think everyone's going to have it higher, but one, it's still a bitch to get on. So that's the biggest problem.
That hurts it a little bit.
It's still not easy to get on. So I can see a lot of people being turned off by that. But once they open up that queue and people get to ride it more, I've only ridden it once, so like I like to ride it more.
I've ridden it twice.
So it's like not only is it hard to get on, but usually when you do ride it, you only get 1 or 2 rides to make an opinion on. And I'm, of course, okay with that, but I know some people.
So Guardians is there at 50, number 49, Railblazer, number 48, Osiris from Park Streaks, number 47, Joker from Discovery Kingdom, 46, Medusa Steel Coaster, 45, Formula Rosa, 44, Tutatis, another ride from Park Streaks. A lot of those this year. 43, Smiler, that's quite a bit of a drop-off for Smiler there.
I'd say so.
Last year. 42, Yunker from Powerland in Finland. Basically a launched monster, if you want to try and imagine what that ride's like. Number 41, criminally underranked Goliath from Six Flags Over.
What is
that
going
ride ought to be
on
in the
here?
top. That's got to at least be in the top 25, if not top 20.
Oh my god! Like, what is that? What is that? I don't even understand. Like, who's not ranking that ride well? Like, this. And
what's going to make it even worse is the rides that appear on the next page, which should not be above it.
I can't. Well, let me comment on this. I'm so surprised Joker's still in this.
No Storm Chaser.
Well. Medusa Steel Coaster. That was a drop. People talking about that being the best ride in the world. Now number 46.
Yeah.
So go figure. Oh Jesus! I just moved to the next page.
Yeah. All right, number 4. This is where all the B&M hypercoasters went.
This is where they went.
Number 40, Silver Star. Number 39, Behemoth. Number 38, Twisted Colossus. Number 37, former champion Superman the Ride. Number 36, Wicked Cyclone. Number 35, Piraten from Jers Summerland in Denmark. One that was on our trip, so that one saw a little bit of a bump. 34 Leviathan, 33 Mako, 32 is where Pantheon is. So Pantheon dropped off quite a bit. I think it was top 15 last year. So Pantheon did drop quite a bit. And number 31 is Shambhala from Ventura.
Well, and honestly, Pantheon, it's a solid ride, but it's not. It's barely a top 32 ride when I look at my. I don't even rank it in my top 50, let alone top 32. Not when you got other rides that are far better on this list. And you know my feelings about Wicked Cyclone. I can't talk about that anymore. Silver Star, I'm still befuddled as to why that's here.
Well, what surprises me year after year is how Silver Star and Mako are on this list, but Diamondback continues to not be. That's what I don't understand.
And Diamondback's
better than both of these rides.
Yeah, and I would take Diamondback over Pantheon too, to be completely honest with you.
Well, and the lack of Candemonium here is interesting too, because Candemonium is so similar to Mako, and most people say that it's better.
And I just don't get it. Like, I don't get how these rides just stick around no matter what. They're like stink on shit at some point that they just don't go away. Like the Silver Stars and I get Bizarro's a former champion. The Wicked Cyclones, like what the hell? What is going on here? I don't know. Anyway.
All right, let's do 30 through 21 here. Number 30, Flying Dinosaur. Number 29, Millennium Force. Number 28, Iron Rattler. Ooh. Quite a bit of a drop for both of those rides there. Number 27, Phantom's Revenge. Number 26, Nemesis. Number 25, Terran. Number 24, Skyrush. Number 23, Lek Coaster from Legendia. Number 22, Twisted Timbers. Number 21, Intimidator 305. So the two King's Dominion rides right next to each other there.
I just find it funny. Terran is a ride that was formerly in the top 5, has now dropped to 25. Nemesis was a lot higher before too, wasn't it?
Yeah, Nemesis is one of those rides that has just slowly slid down as new rides.
Wasn't it flirting with the top 10 at one point? Like
it was in the top 10.
And Iron Rattler definitely was up there too.
Iron Rattler seemed like the ride that was always just going to stick around in the top 10. But
it's just not. I guess there are so many new steel coasters that kind of force these things out quicker than you see it with the wood coasters, obviously.
Yeah, just by the virtue of existing and being built, they get shoved down. So
well, here we go.
All right, so let's go to the top 20 now. At number 20, we have Schwerdiskernen. Number 19, Asian Ica. Number 18, X2. Number 17, Fly. Number 16, Lightning Rod. Number 15, Wildcat's Revenge. That's actually quite a bit lower than I would have expected out of
That's low for as much as I've heard about that ride, and it's a new ride. Maybe people, but then, I don't know, people didn't get out to the park? I don't know.
Well, the only thing is, remember Wildcat's Revenge closed a couple of times for like weeks on end?
Yeah.
So Wildcat's Revenge was not open as much as people think that it was. It was closed for quite a bit. There are many people who went to the park and did not ride it. Number 14, Maverick. Number 13, Airy Force 1, which I think is a little high. I think Wildcat's the better ride there. Number 12, Helix. I'm perfectly fine with Helix being in that spot there. I think it's probably just outside of a top 10 ride, but top 20, sure. And number 11, Conda. So Conda, a little bit of a drop-off from last year. Was in the top 5.
Well, and Maverick what was Maverick last year? Maverick seems a little lower. X2 seems a little lower, but
yeah.
I guess we're gonna see here in a second.
They all seem to be bumping down just a little bit, but that's because we had some rides jump up. So
yeah, just a few.
Well, and here we go. Time for the top 10. Number 10, Fury 325, all the way down at number 10. Number 9, Hyperion. That comes in. Expedition G-Force sitting at number 8. Iron Gwazi at number 7. Ride to Happiness all the way up to 6.
Yeah.
How about that? Number 5. Yeah.
Wow.
Number 5 is where we find Jurassic World Velocicoaster, so dropped a couple spots. Number 4, Untamed. Number 3 is where we see Taiga move up to. So certainly, and I will say that is not just me. It is not just my vote doing that. I promise. Because if it was just my vote, Manta would be somewhere in here, right?
Yeah. Right.
So it's certainly not just my vote. Number two, Zach. So again, the contender was an honest to goodness number two here. Zadra, a true number two, and Steel Vengeance, of course, your champion at number one. So would you like to know the percentages here?
Well, yeah, that's what we're all here for, I think.
All right. So we'll do the top five here because I think the top five are particularly interesting. At number five, which is Velocicoaster, 99.07.
Okay.
Untamed and Taiga both were at 99.094. Taiga was 99.0949. Untamed was 99.0944. So 0.0005%. So that essentially means we're out to the sixth decimal place.
My God.
To decide that one. So Taiga and Untamed are essentially a virtual tie for third.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So 99.09, Zadra was at 99.22. So a little bit of a margin there.
Yeah.
And then Steel Vengeance 99.47.
Oh.
So still not a massive margin of victory, but still a significant margin of victory.
Well, for the Steel Coasters, we've seen much closer numbers over the years than we see with the Wood Coasters.
So Zadra is a decided number two in this year's list, but as much as Zadra is the decided number two, Vengeance is even more of a decided number one.
I don't know. I feel like I need to go out to Europe to properly rank these coasters because I don't know if anyone has done it yet.
Well, you just may.
I'm not getting out to Europe anytime soon.
Well, I guess that's probably
true.
It's
not in the cards for me, Mr. Miller. It's not in the cards.
No?
No.
All right. Well, I know everybody's gonna wonder here, because it's
finally nobody knows. This is the greatest mystery in all of Coaster.
Oh no, I'm not there yet. I was gonna tell you where Raptor was.
Oh, okay.
Raptor at 88.72 is number 102.
Oh, that's fell out of the top 100. What the hell?
Yeah. And at number 97 at 89.37 is Manta from SeaWorld Orlando. Jesus, so only 5 spots ahead.
It's almost a neck and neck race there.
It pretty much is. They're pretty much right next. Other rides in that area, Jersey Devil, Banshee, Alpengeist. Like there's still some good rides.
Those are good rides.
Yeah, those are floating right around the 100 mark. So Hulk is down there. Hulk is actually ahead of Raptor, but behind Manta. So Brian Bass is in between.
That's some bullshit. Brian Bass. That's some bullshit.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So we got one more order of business here, and that is to
just wait. I know some new people went to go ride Raptor, and I feel like it's gonna make a big jump this year.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was a very, very difficult year. Obviously, lots of people had the two finalists right in both sides for years now. So Zadra and Wildfire certainly threw that off. There were a couple people who had Wildfire and a couple people who had Zadra, at least in the finals. Nobody had either of them winning. But our champion this year is a name that we all know, someone who's been doing this from the very beginning. But once again, somebody who's never won. So we have yet to have a repeat contest winner.
One new champion we've gotten.
Well, we do have one new champion and someone who's been doing this for many years from the beginning. Finally getting off the schneid is Mr. Adam Beard.
Oh, very
The Beard Man has finally conquered the thrilling 32 bracket challenge.
He, like you said, he's been doing it since the very beginning, and he's been close a few times, right?
He's been very close. He's always been, top 5, top 3. I think
always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
I think he was second the year that my brother won. Like,
Okay.
like that's how close he's been. But yeah, so congratulations to the Beard Man. We'll get you some magnets of your choosing. Should you so choose. We'd invite you to a meetup, but I think we see enough of you as it
Yeah,
is.
we see enough of this.
So that's
Does he
not a
want the
problem there.
Orion magnet? I still have that one over here.
Oh yes, that's the original Orion one. I'm working on a Guardians one. I just finished up a Phantom's Revenge one not too long ago, and an Airy Force one. So I've been working on some new ones
Oh,
recently.
and I remember you telling me the story about that you made the logo better for Air Force One.
Oh yeah, it's way better. I'm looking at it. It's over there on my fridge right now. It's way better than the
I
actual.
know. I got them all up here on my wall still. So if you like
Yeah.
look up here, they're like up there.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Look at that. They're all up there. That's
they're all
cool.
up there. I got them all. So finally, that concludes the
Finally,
2023 Thrilling 30 or the 2023 bracket challenge. Or no, the 2023. It's too fucking late for this shit. I don't know what the hell. It's something 2023 we just concluded.
the
We found out,
2023 Ride Warrior Choice Awards
there we
has
go.
finally come to a close.
And this is the 2024 Thrilling 32, though.
Well, yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I mean, I was gonna ask how long will it take you to edit and post this? Should we just announce that voting is open for next year?
Well, I got a lot of trips planned all of a sudden. So I'm gonna be out in some parks, all American parks, by the way. Gonna pick up some new credits. I've been picking up a lot of kitty credits as of late. I will
There
say,
you go.
if I was a betting man for next year, I'd put your money on Oscar's Wacky Taxi. So I feel Oscar's Wacky Taxi is the dark horse next year. I'd put some money on that one to go far.
Oscar's Wacky Taxi will make an appearance next year. I can see it
I
now.
have a good feeling that it's going to. I know two people in my household that really enjoyed that ride. So,
Oh,
um,
I enjoy that ride too.
and one of the two people has only been on one wood coaster. So,
New number one.
new number one is what it was. So yeah, so we'll be opening voting up pretty soon here. Actually, I kind of like this July timeline. Like, I know we
It's
like to
not
get
bad.
it's not bad. We get to talk about rides from last year, and you got to go ride some new ones, and I've been in the
We get
books
to
for.
it's interesting because we get to speculate on some rides that we have already ridden that weren't in our votes, and maybe some new rides that have opened and get to speculate on them. So it's not bad. I don't know if any of the rides opening this year are going to get in
I,
there,
I
but
I don't think Top Thrill 2 is going to make it in. I don't know. I don't know. At this point, only
I'll
five.
hold out for
Go.
Iron Menace.
Yeah, I don't know if that one's
Probably
gonna make it in either. I'm probably not gonna hold my breath for that one either.
not.
So, so as always, thank you for joining us here. We finally concluded
Yes,
the Thrilling 32 after much
finally.
debate and many, many comments on
Yes,
the YouTube about when we were going to finish it. It is now done. It is now finito.
yes.
It has now ended. It has now concluded. And I am, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.